March 27th, 2018. Cartoonist Ben Boclet proposes a very powerful question. Something that, if manifested in reality, could end wars, famine, and even climate change. I think I have a good idea for a Gumball movie. Would you guys watch a Gumball movie? The answer was a resounding yes. And with the booming popularity of the series, it simply felt like an inevitability. May 31st, 2019. The series finale of the Amazing World of Gumball, titled The Inquisition, is released on the Cartoon Network app and video on demand. Expectations were high. 8 years of emotional investment in this little blue troublemaker has led to this moment. And by the end of this 11-minute episode, we had an underwhelming cliffhanger that the creator made clear wasn't his idea. An ending that fans kinda hated, not solely because of the cliffhanger, but because the entire episode was just kinda okay. It felt like setup for a movie that, at the time, didn't exist. And it really didn't live up to other season finales of Gumball, to other special events from the series. But all we could do is wait. And wait, fans did. For months and months. Comic-Cons passed. No news surfaced. Clip show specials emerged and started out really lame before getting really creative with new segments that I actually really enjoy now. Still, after almost 2 years of no big announcement, it looked like the odds were stacked against the Gumball movie. Hope was lost. Until February 17th, 2021. Warner Media presents their Kids and Family Upfront, stacked with announcements. Infinity Train Book 4, Total Drama Island, a spin-off of the only Teen Titans Go episode that everyone universally loves. But the cherry on top, the Gumball movie in development. It's finally time. The Amazing World of Gumball movie will finally be headed to the big screen, small screen, probably just whatever device you use to stream. But there's virtually nothing publicly available about the contents of the film. No synopsis, no release date, nothing. But that doesn't mean we can't figure some of these things out and make some wild predictions along the way. Like how this movie could incorporate a multiverse story of sorts. And not just because it's the hot new thing. I think this show has planted the seeds for this. By the way, please like and subscribe for more cartoon content. When will the movie come out? So this is the question I want to touch on first, because if you're expecting this to be out by the end of 2021, you're probably going to have a bad time. Animation is no easy feat, so as you can imagine, TV movies are no easy feat. It's not as simple as making 4 to 6 episodes and stitching them together, unless you're the Ben 10 reboot. TV movies are typically a production all of their own. The production pipelines can vary, but typically there's a year and some months between the announcement of the film and it hitting our TV screens. For example, We Bare Bears the movie was announced at the end of May 2019 and was released on digital in June of 2020, airing on television in September of the same year. But the Gumball movie is a little different, since the announcement was for its development rather than it being officially greenlit and placed into full screen production. So I think to get a better understanding of this, a better comparison for the pipeline of the Gumball movie is actually the production of Steven Universe the movie, as the process of making that film has a lot more public information than most Cartoon Network movies. SU the movie was greenlit sometime in 2017, while the Crewniverse was working on the final season of the original series. After finishing the storyboarding, pitching, and recording process for the finale, Change Your Mind, there was a brief hiatus for the Crewniverse, time that Rebecca Sugar used to write all of the songs for said movie. The movie would go into production later in 2017. I want to say the fall, and would officially be announced in summer of 2018 at San Diego Comic-Con. This same summer, the movie would be worked on internally alongside the epilogue miniseries, and the movie was finished in the late summer of 2019, premiering on television September 2nd of that year. So it took roughly 2 years to make that movie from start to finish. I think it's extremely likely that the Gumball movie could follow a similar pattern, as I imagine a series as monumental as this would have a similar runtime to Steven Universe the movie, a near 90 minutes. And just like both We Bare Bears the movie and Steven Universe the movie's upgraded art and animation, I imagine they're going to want to give this their all and make this the most stunning, visually appealing Gumball experience out of the entire franchise. So if it starts official production within the coming months, I don't think we should expect to see it until either fall 2022 or in the first half of 2023. Keep in mind, These premieres aren't just about releasing the film as soon as it's finished. It's about promotion and timing with holidays as well. Steven and We Bare Bears had their movies released on Labor Day of those respective years. Obsidian was released the weekend before most students would have been on Thanksgiving break. It's truly a balancing act. Ideally, the movie would be finished as soon as possible, but if it's not ready for a fall 2022 release, I really wouldn't expect to see it until 2023, on either Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which Cartoon Network has premiered specials such as K&D, Operation Interviews, and Change Your Mind before, or Memorial Day weekend of that year. Once society is ideally back to normal next summer, San Diego Comic-Con 2022 would be the perfect place for Warner Media to promote the movie, hyping up the masses with a panel, free swag, and maybe even a trailer. This would also ideally be the place to announce a concrete release window. I know that all sounds so far away, but that's just the nature of animation, y'all. Good things come to those who wait, even when patience hasn't been a virtue in our grasp for the last year or so. Ha 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 ha. And this brings us to the main event. What will the movie be about? A lot is weighing on this Gumball movie, probably more than when the show initially ended. I mean, this movie has to follow up the series finale, make up for lost time to fans, thus having to live up to insane expectations, and presumably conclude the Amazing World of Gumball franchise as a whole. To bring you up to speed, Gumball has had sprinkles of continuity throughout the largely episodic adventures. While the show was no stranger to status quo changes, one of the most notable being Penny jumping from Gumball's crush to his actual girlfriend, the biggest plot point in the series was the Void and Rob. The Void is a pocket dimension introduced in the episode of the same name that contains the world's mistakes, which can vary from objects to characters who were erased and removed from their own world. The Void has appeared in numerous episodes in the show from season 3 onwards. In season 4 is The Signal, an episode in which Gumball's reality begins to experience mysterious glitches, and they even suspect they live in a TV show. The Void's ambience can be heard in the malfunctioning title card. This episode also displays a no signal message on the Water's End TV, hinting at the Void having some sort of affiliation with screens, which is further supported in season 4's The Compilation and season 5's The Boredom. The compilation sees the Void appear in a video after Darwin accidentally breaks the screen on his computer, and The Boredom has the Void serve as a screen transition of sorts on Gumball's window, appearing in between shots of other Cartoon Network shows on at the time, such as Clarence, Uncle Grandpa, and Regular Show. Remember this little nugget of meta for the multiverse angle. Season 6 features the 200th episode of the series, The Vegging, which I feel like really sets up the movie. This episode sports a big self-aware Easter egg with a Wheel of Fortune-esque game show spelling out, the show ends at season 6. Not only that, but Gumball and Darwin's attempt at a carefree day sees tons of weird supernatural and multidimensional occurrences, including the Void, which moves Gumball's remote away from him. In The Oracle and the Future, Banana Joe's mother, Barbara, translates her precognitive abilities into paintings, alluding to all of Elmore being erased and sent to the Void. Season 3's The Oracle ends on an ominous cliffhanger of an entranced Barbara painting the water sins within the Void, accompanied with Barbara sporting an ominous smile. Season 6's The Future ends on a similar eerie note. This episode directly confirms that Barb can manifest future events through her paintings. And when Gumball remarks that they'll see his rival, Rob, in the future, Barb responds after his and Darwin's departure, but there is no future. As for Rob himself, he appears here and there in the first 2 seasons, but doesn't really do anything major. In fact, the world deems him as a mistake. He's spotted within the Void in its debut episode, and this is where he begins to play a bigger role in the grand scheme of things. Season 3's The Nobody finds Rob after escaping the Void, now redesigned due to the Void's disfiguration. Having a nasty case of amnesia, Gumball and Darwin jog his memory, which leads to Rob swearing revenge on Gumball for leaving him hanging in that purgatory of a nightmare realm. Rob does serve as a staple antagonist from here on out, which is cool to see, having a few schemes here and there. But what's worth highlighting is his use of a universal remote in Season 4's The Disaster and Season 5's The Rerun. This reality-altering remote puts the Infinity Stones to shame, Rob sabotaging Gumball's life and attempting to vanish Gumball to the Void, only for Gumball to rewind time and alter events to turn the tables. But ultimately, Gumball has a change of heart and spares Rob, who in return destroys the remote. But then things get weird. Going back to the episode The Future, Rob kidnaps Banana Barbara so he can force her to paint the future. Gumball, Darwin, and Banana Joe assume the worst of Rob's intentions and have him erased out of existence. only for Gumball to once again feel bad and have Barbara restore him. But she paints him in the void. Evidently, Rob had to escape the void again. And in the series finale, The Inquisition, Rob disguises himself as Superintendent Evil and conducts a scheme to transform the entirety of Elmore Junior High into human beings. But once his plan is foiled, he tries to explain himself, only for Tina to knock him out. When Rob comes to at night, he panics, speaking aloud to himself that he was only trying to help, before the void ends up engulfing the entire school and Rob once more. So laying this all out on the table, what the hell is going on with the void, and why was Rob trying to save everyone by turning them into humans? A lot of people believe the void deems all of Elmore as a mistake for its lack of humans and general weirdness, which Rob was trying to correct, but I think something bigger is at play. Gumball just being too weird to exist isn't meta enough in a show that's all about the meta, especially with the meta being so ingrained in its overarching continuity that in itself revolves around a meta location. I mean, look what's in the void. It's not just random assets thrown in willy-nilly. Nearly everything in the void is here for a reason and has a deeper meaning in the meta. And most, if not all of these things are also dated, which I think is a crucial detail. You got the likes of Guitars, Laserdisc, and Crazy Frog! You heard me right! Outdated trends such as mullets, pogo balls, and the word YOLO. Even things that no longer exist in our real world, such as a platybillion and a piece of the Titanic. But more importantly to Gumball, outdated designs and characters from the show itself are sent to the void as well. There's a previous version of Darwin's design from the early reel, and an outline of Nicole's head, with these patterns likely representing an earlier design of Nicole. Hell, just like Rob, another character from the early seasons got here, Molly Collins. Due to being boring, which if you ask me, that reasoning sounds like either feedback from viewers in the audience or notes from executives making the show. Unlike Rob, however, Gumball, Darwin, and Mr. Smalls didn't forget her. All of this stuff in the void, and the fact it's been coming after Gumball, really starts to click together when you take a step back and take a look at the original premise of the show. The creator of Gumball originally intended the show to be about a cast of rejected cartoon characters. To quote the man directly, "I started looking back at the characters that I created for commercials. It was a big mashup of 2D, stylized 3D, realistic 3D, and even stop motion. I lined them up and the result looked varied and unusual. I really liked the idea of a show without graphic unity. All of these characters had been rejected. They had no purpose. I found that quite endearing. I integrated them in the photo of a schoolyard and was quite excited with the outcome. I pitched a show about a remedial school for hapless rejected cartoon characters set up in the real world. Daniel Leonard, who was in charge of the development studio, wasn't convinced. He thought that the concept was too sad, and that it wasn't very cool to make jokes about remedial schools. I have to admit that in retrospect, he was quite right. It felt like a mild cartoon version of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and the concept naturally lent itself to pessimistic and mean-spirited stories. But he liked the look of it, and encouraged me to pitch a different show with a similar design approach. So hear me out. Changing the show from a school about cartoon rejects at a remedial school to the Gumball we know today may actually be a part of the show itself. Think about it. Rob tried to save the school in particular, and it was the first place in Elmore to get completely engulfed by the void. And how does Rob try to save the school? By redesigning them completely into humans. Okay, put on the tinfoil hats because this may sound a little batshit crazy. Gumball premiered in the 2010s, a time where reboots became a huge trend in entertainment, one that persists to this very day. The void began showing up in season 3. Why is this important? Well, season 2 concluded on the episode titled The Finale, where the past actions of numerous episodes from throughout the past 2 seasons catch up with the Watterson family. We don't know if this was a just in case we get canceled pseudo finale or just a fun season finale in general, but it really could have served as a conclusion for the time. It puts a lot of major episodes and episodic cartoons to shame for just how airtight they managed to fit in all of these threads from previous episodes in a short time frame. What if the quote-unquote world and the void saw this episode as a serviceable ending, and thus began the process of erasing Elmore, which is why the void was finally brought to light in the following season. But really, the city of Elmore has been fighting off the void since the very beginning. Like any cartoon, they don't want to be prematurely canceled, which being sucked into the void effectively means. So, the Amazing World of Gumball kept updating itself, giving us refined character designs in seasons 2 and 3. Gumball's various voice changes throughout the series, the various changes to the status quo. It's all been the city of Elmore, more so a mysterious force protecting Elmore, fighting back and trying to keep the void at bay. This isn't to say all the character growth throughout the series wasn't genuine. Those emotional moments still hold up even in this context, but all those moments still fleshed out the show and justified its existence for a little bit longer. At some point during his time in the Void, something had to happen to Rob that made him linked to the Void and aware of all of this, likely the event that redesigned his own character, which is why he kidnapped Barb to see the future, and why he tried to save Elmore by redesigning everyone into humans. Once the show became aware it was ending at season 6, I think the longevity of the show at this point caused an inverse reaction. Instead of ending the show, and thus erasing Elmore, the world now wants to reboot the show, much like other Cartoon Network properties that have gotten a major facelift in the 2010s, such as the Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, and Teen Titans. Their origins as rejected cartoon characters means that the Amazing World of Gumball has to be retooled and rebooted completely into the perfect marketable cartoon with the perfect marketable characters. Again, the school was simply the first thing to be engulfed into the void, due to it already being one of the first major changes of the series. And that's where I think the movie's going to pick up, with the school either vanished in thin air or replaced with a new Elmore High, maybe one that's more simplistic and bubbly. That's what I think the story of this movie is going to be. Gumball and friends saving their world from being rebooted, as everything and everyone around them slowly gets replaced with a new version of themselves. The Watterson prototype house already being present in the void has me thinking that we can expect the current house to get snapped out of existence. And ultimately, the Wattersons end up in the void themselves, as prophesized by Barbara. But if the previous prototype versions of these characters are in the void, then you know who else is going to be in the void? The previous designs of the characters from seasons 1 and 2. Imagine if they brought back the old voice actors to play each iteration too, deeper voices aside. That'd be amazing! This effort to save the reality roping in the GUMBALL-VERSE, which would be the perfect way to tie in episodes such as the Copycats, the knockoff Watterson family that in itself was a parody of Miracle Star. This journey to save their home could even add another layer to meaning to all the various animation styles throughout the series, and I'm absolutely here for it. Look, no matter what the Gumball movie winds up being about, I think it's very likely that it's going to live up to all of the hype and exceed our expectations. I definitely hope I'm on the right track of everything lined up, but there could always be some overlooked pieces. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? When do you expect the Gumball movie to release? What do you think it's going to be about? Do you agree or disagree with anything we said? Let us know in the comments down below, and you can always keep the conversation going over at Roundtable Vids on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me at OstrikVox. Shout out to our incredible patrons, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to throw it a like and hit that subscribe button. Watch out for any portals to the void. Bye!